shite. All right, everybody here with me? Oh, sorry.
Slope.
What?
The first one's slope.
Great job, James. All right, so recording this whole time. 4.2 day 1, slope-intercept form. We have to remember a couple things. Remember that the slope of a line is the ratio of its vertical change to its horizontal change. Remember, we've been referring to this as rise over run, just like we did on those form-up problems. Previously, we also talked about y-intercepts. We remember that y-intercepts are where my graph crosses the y-axis. So if you're looking at a graph, the y-axis is the one that goes up and down, right? The y-intercept is where we are going to begin graphing our lines. So all of our lines will start there, and we'll use our slope. We are going to, for the next few days, focus on writing equations of lines in different forms. The first form that we're going to look at is called the slope-intercept form. Because guess what? In this form, it contains the slope and the y-intercept. Shocker, I know. All right, so this form looks like, you'll see it right down there, y equals mx plus b. Maybe we've seen that before, maybe we haven't. Remember I told you that y equals is kind of for babies, and we don't like using y equals as much when we get into higher level maths. So f of x equals mx plus b is the same exact thing, just a little bit fancier. The m in this formula stands for slope. Some old guy probably picked out the letter M, and I don't know why we've stuck with it, but that's our letter for slope. And then similarly, B represents our letter for the y-intercept. I don't know who decided on these, but somebody did. That's it. The y equals will always stay the same. The x will always stay the same. In some cases, it's f of x instead of y equals. You know, good stuff. Questions so far? What we are going to do is we are going to write equations in slope-intercept form, or we are going to look at an equation in slope-intercept form and pick out the slope and the y-intercept. So if I take a look at this equation in A, remember that my equation takes the form y equals mx plus b. So first, I will look at the m. The m always comes right before the x, and that represents our slope. So in this equation, my slope is 5. The b is always at the end. That represents my y-intercept. In this case, I take that negative with me. My y-intercept, I'm going to write it as a point. 0, -2. Remember, for that y-intercept, x value is always 0. Can we see that, maybe? Any questions on that? Let's go backwards and do the same exact thing. In letter B, I have my slope, I have my y-intercept. I'm going to start with, here's my equation, right? Y equals mx plus b. Y equals, always stays like that, always the same. The m represents my slope. It's followed by x, which is always there. And then plus b, my y-intercept. And that's literally it. One thing I do want to point out that I see quite often is notice that my slope doesn't have the x part with it. Slope is just a number. If you put that x next to slope, I'm going to take points off because the x does not go with the slope. The x is its own thing. Questions on that? Okay, help me with these two then. In letter C, The only thing that I've changed is that it's not saying y equals mx plus b. It says f of x equals mx plus b. But we know that's just fancy for y equals. What's the slope of this equation? Anybody? James? And what's the y-intercept of this equation? Sure. Sure. I take my slope from right before the x. I take my y-intercept from the very end. It's always 0, something. Questions on that? Can somebody help me write the equation for the second one? Autumn? Sure. Perfect. Slope goes first, then the x, then the y-intercept. Any questions on that? That's it. Take a look at A. Now we're not going to look at the equation. We're going to write the equation based on the graph. So there's two things that I need for this formula. We know my formula is y equals mx plus b, right? I need the m, which is the slope. And I need the b, which is the y-intercept. Look at this graph right here. What's the y-intercept? James? -2. It's where it crosses this y-axis. So my y-intercept, let's put it at 0, -2. How do I calculate my slope? James? Rise over run. We're going to pick 2 points that fall nicely on the corners of my graph. I'm going to start from left to right, and I'm going to count the rise, 1, 2, the run, 1. Any questions on that? Now it should just be plugging in, right? I can simplify this to 2, but then all I have to do is plug in y equals my slope, m, x, plus b, but b is negative, so we can just say minus b. That's all. Questions on that? Let's do it again. I need 2 things. What are one of those 2 things that I need for my equation here? Give me one of them. Look at this graph. What's the important information I got to pull out here? What? Slope-intercept form needs 2 things, slope and intercept. Can somebody give me one of those 2 things? Jay, is that a hand? Okay, let's double check his work. He's saying my y-intercept is 2. Do we agree? And then he's saying that our slope is -1. Let's take a look. I picked 2 points. My rise is -1. My run is 1. So that slope, -1 over 1, looks like -1. All good? Oh my goodness gracious. Questions? Okay, flip it over. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at these equations and graph our lines. It is very simple. I promise I'm not going to throw anything crazy at you. But I do want you to draw nice straight lines. So take a ruler. 3, 4, 5. You already did all of them? I have like 1 y. How many are you going to do? Where's the first one? All right. So let's take a look at letter A. Remember, this is exactly what we did on the first page. I want to take a look at my equation, and I want to figure out what is the slope and what is the y-intercept. What is the slope of this equation right here? What's the slope? Our slope is -3. Our y-intercept is what? I heard 0. It's not 0. What's our y-intercept? 4. There's 2 steps to graphing this equation. Step 1, plot the y-intercept. So whatever y-intercept you found, put it on the graph first. So at 0, 4, right here, goes my first point. Now, we are going to take our slope and we are going to use it to draw the next few points. So step 2, use the slope to draw more points. We should fill up the entire graph with points. I know how to use slope as rise over run. Rise over run is a fraction. How do I write -3 as a fraction? James? Perfect. So therefore, my rise over run is -3 over 1. So from that point that I started at, I'm going to rise -3, so go down 3, and go over 1. And I'm going to repeat until I get to the end. Down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. There we go. Now, do we see that the other half of my graph has not been filled in? How am I going to do the opposite? How am I going to work backwards to fill in the rest of my graph? Cody? Yeah, so essentially what we're going to do is flip the signs. So instead of rise over run being -3 over +1, let's do a +3 over a -1. So go up 3, backwards 1, up 3, backwards 1, until our whole graph is filled out. Then we can draw our line through all of those points. And this is something we were skipping a lot on that quiz. Put the arrows on your lines. Questions on that? Can I get you for 2 more of these and then I'll be done? Yes, I think yes. All right, letter B. What's our slope here? Cody. Perfect. What's our y-intercept? How do we know it's 0? When there's nothing there, it's like I'm saying +0. So our y-intercept is at 0, 0. The first thing that goes on my graph is the y-intercept. This one is right smack in the middle of this graph. Now I'm going to use my slope, which is rise over run, up 3 over 4. Up 3 over 4. Up 3 over 4. Up 3 over 4. If I want to go backwards, what do I do to my slope? Flip the signs. So +3 over +4 is the same thing as -3 over -4. So I could go down 3 backwards 4, down 3 backwards 4, down 3 backwards 4. Something that you should be checking as well is that our slopes should match how our graph looks. Remember how we were doing that yesterday? So in letter A, I had a -3 slope. My graph should go downwards. In letter B, I have a +3, 4 slope. My graph should be going upwards. If those 2 things are not matching, you did something wrong. Let's look at C. One more. What's my slope? -1/2. What's my y-intercept? I start with my y-intercept at 0. Excuse me, 0, -1. What's my rise over run here? Can somebody help me? I see a negative. Where does the negative actually go? instead of hand. No, Autumn. Sure. Let's say that this rise over run, oops, is down 1 over 2. So let's start there. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Keep going until we get to the end. Now I want to go the other way. So then what should I do? Flip the signs. Up 1, backwards 2. Up 1, backwards 2. Up 1, backwards 2. Keep going until we get to the end. Notice, I have a negative slope. My line should be going downwards as I read a book from left to right. Any questions on that?